This is the world's most produced tank series in history. Can you guess what year they were produced? They were produced in the late 1940s, and approximately 96,500 to over 100,000 units were produced by the Soviet Union, China, and other Warsaw Pact countries. But the question is, how did this tank come to be? What we are talking about is the T-54 and T-55 tank series. Well after World War II, Soviet designers wanted to come up with a new medium tank, which was a derivative of the T-44 design. It employed the same hull with the different turret design, maintaining the torsion bar suspension, and after various prototypes in 1947, the T-54 Oprazats 1947, commonly known as the T-54-1. This variation was issued to tank armies in the Belarusian military district, who familiarized Soviet units with the tank. But at first, this tank was riddled with issues and design flaws which were discovered when crews went for training exercises, and the fate of the T-54-1 was almost to be 100% relegated to reserves. Obviously, the tank needed improvements. The T-54 Oprazats 1949 came with improvements to the turret and the commander's cupola. It is similar to the later T-54 turret, but with a distinctive overhang at the rear. But still, it had problems. In 1951, a new variant of the T-54 came, which was the T-54 Oprazats 1951, commonly known as the T-54-3. It had a new turret, which further improved drawbacks on the turrets of the T-54-1 and -2, and the new dome-shaped turret with flat sides was inspired by the turret from the IS-3 heavy tank. At the mid to late 1950s, two modernizations of the T-54 came, the T-54A and the T-54B. The modernizations still included the D10-100mm tank gun as they have been since 1947, but in 1953 it was improved with a new vertical stabilizer, the STP-1, and it was fitted into the T-54's turret, and the modernized tank gun with the new vertical stabilizer received the designation of the D-10TG on the T-54A. But this added weight to the gun from the inside of the tank, and to counter this weight, a new fume extractor was installed on the D10, which had its first appearance and gave the T-54A's gun the unique look of the T-55 and T-54. And also, the T-54A included some early night vision upgrades. And after that came the T-54B with similar modifications, but then came the dangers of biological weapons.
Полевой столб, поднимающийся с земли, быстро увеличился в объеме.
The Soviets needed a tank that had an integrated NBC protection. The tank was the T-55, the first Soviet tank to have an integrated NBC protection system. The T-55 also introduced new frontal ammo racks, and some modifications in terms of fuel tanks was implemented, which added an extra 100 litres, which extended the tank's range. There is a ton of the T-55 modernizations out there, like the famous T-55AM or T-55AD. T-54 and T-55 tanks were the most produced tanks ever seen and have reached back ever since the Cold War. This has led them to being in 15 or more major wars and regional conflicts during the Cold War, the most famous of which being the Vietnam War, where the tank was first tested in real combat, of which the T-55 and T-54 has been used worldwide by as many as 50 countries and quasi-armies. They have been subject to many improvements throughout their production history and afterwards, and still this tank was included in the plethora of conflicts in Eastern Europe and outside of Europe. The tank was famously seen in the 1956 Hungarian Revolution, and was also seen and used extensively in the Vietnam War. It was destroyed heavily in the Six-Day War, but still made combat in the 1973 Yom Kippur War in the same battlefield years later. This prompted more modernizations to the tank, even though it was outdated, and over the years have changed almost every aspect of the vehicle. Initially, Soviet modifications included a better turret shape, improved NBC protection, and improved power production. Enhanced fire control equipment and night vision equipment was added, and even so, in both Warsaw Pact nations and elsewhere, have further improved protection, power plant, and firepower. T-54 and T-55s have been re-armoured with improved tank guns, AA machine guns, advanced armour arrays, and technologies such as laser rangefinders and computerized fire control systems, which did not exist when the tank was first being built in the early days of the Cold War. The T-54 and T-55 was undoubtedly the most versatile tank in military history, having faced and still is facing conflicts around the world. Sometimes you don't need a multi-million tank to do the job, because often what's simple, reliable, and cheap is the most used. This is the video that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy most. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.